1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to residents against wood smoke emission particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates, or RAWSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this RAWSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, residents against wood smoke emission particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025 and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHYAFZZEE February 11, 2026, an energy-saving mini-split heat pump you will not want to hide. In Webisode 57DHYAFZZEE 0 RAWSEP View 1 World 2 United States 3 California 4 Colorado 5 Delaware 6 Florida 7 Massachusetts 8 New York 9 Oregon 10 Vermont 11 Virginia 12 Canada 13 Australia 14 Finland 15 United Kingdom 16 Ukraine 17 Cameroon 18 Morocco 19 India 20 Thailand. Main content. 0 RAWSEP View on 2 issues related to the current Trump government rejection of science and medicine. 01 Rejecting decades of science. Vaccine panel chair says polio and other shots should be optional. 022 Trump allies near total victory in wiping out U.S. climate regulation. RAWSEP View 01 What is the victory in making polio and other shots only optional? What does the vaccine panel chair mean by optional? Is it onerous to be fully protected from disease using the latest medical science with proven minimal side effects? In fact, it is onerous to be in the vicinity of people who are contagious with communicable diseases that were or should have been eliminated in a modern society with access to the latest medical interventions. An example of the effect on the editor of RAWSEP is the rise of measles at her workplace, and in other communities the number of measles cases is rising at a faster pace, especially on the issue of climate change. Those who seek to deny its existence are especially imaginative. They label it a communist plot, calling it Lenin-like, when the real reason people who believe climate change is real believe it is real based on scientific facts. RAWSEP suspects we should follow the money then. Few now in charge of many areas of the Trump government may push their destructive theories not because they believe them, but because there is money to be made by the fossil fuel industry, and there may be payoffs we have not yet uncovered involving quack debunked medical alternatives to vaccines, for instance. 01 RAWSEP View Dr. Milhon seeks to delay vaccines. He believes that vaccines should only be given after consultation with a physician, and he believes vaccines, including the polio vaccine, should not be required for entry into a public school. From the article headline, Rejecting Decades of Science. Vaccine panel chair says polio and other shots should be optional. Dr. Kirk Milhon, a pediatric cardiologist who leads the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, said, "The right of a person to refuse a vaccine outweighed concerns about illness or death from infectious diseases." Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. January 23, 2026, offering a startlingly candid view into the philosophy guiding vaccine recommendations under the Trump administration. The leader of the federal panel that recommends vaccines for Americans said shots against polio and measles, and perhaps all diseases, should be optional, offered only in consultation with a clinician. Dr. Kirk Milhon, a pediatric cardiologist who is chair of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, said that he did have concerns that some children might die of measles or become paralyzed with polio as a result of a choice not to vaccinate. But he said, "I also am saddened when people die of alcoholic diseases," adding freedom of choice and bad health outcomes. In the case of an infectious disease, a personal choice to decline a vaccine may also affect others, including infants who are too young to be vaccinated or people who are immunocompromised. But the right of a person to reject a vaccine supersedes those risks. Dr. Milhon said, "If there is no choice, then informed consent is an illusion." He said, "Without consent, it is medical battery." The polio and measles vaccines are widely acknowledged as staggering successes in public health, credited with preventing disability and millions of deaths worldwide. The polio vaccine in particular has strong bipartisan support, including from President Trump and some Republican lawmakers who have invoked the horrific time before the vaccine was available. But Dr. Milhon said that making the vaccines optional rather than requiring them for entry into public schools nationwide, as is now the case, would ultimately restore trust in public health. Outside experts had sharp words for Dr. Milhon, saying the changes in vaccine policy he was suggesting would result in unnecessary deaths among children. "He has no idea what he is talking about," said Dr. Sean O'Leary, chair of the Infectious Disease Committee at the American Academy of Pediatrics. "These vaccines protect children and save lives." Dr. O'Leary said, "It is very frustrating for those of us who spend our careers trying to do what we can to improve the health of children to see harm coming to children because of an ideological agenda not grounded in science." Dr. Milhon outlined some of his views in an episode of the podcast Why Should I Trust You? that aired on Thursday. In the podcast, he said polio and measles were not the threat they once were in the United States because of improvements in medicine and sanitation rather than the vaccines alone. Echoing comments by Health Secretary RFK Jr., he described himself as pulling back the curtain on the risks of vaccines in a series of text messages later on Thursday and Friday. He elaborated on his view that personal autonomy was paramount. "The vaccine committee may not necessarily recommend that all vaccines be optional," he added, "but it is charged with reevaluating all of the vaccine products, including risks and benefits, and may make significant changes to the roster of childhood vaccines over the coming year. Any changes the committee makes would add to a significant reshaping of the vaccination schedule announced this month by federal health officials, bypassing the process that the committee has long followed for vaccine recommendations." Mr. Kennedy and his appointees debuted a schedule that reduces the number of recommended immunizations to 11 from 17 and advises that the 6 vaccines that were dropped should now be administered only under shared clinical decision making. That is after consultation with a healthcare provider. A spokesman for the Department of Health and Human Services declined to comment on the views of Dr. Milhon. So far, states and insurance companies are continuing to follow the previous vaccination schedule, which is still endorsed by the American Academy of Pediatrics and other medical organizations. All 50 states and the District of Columbia require children to be vaccinated against most of the 17 diseases to attend public schools. Children can be exempted from the shots for medical or other reasons, still requiring routine shots for school entry is heavy-handed and authoritarian. Dr. Milhon said on the podcast, "What we are doing is returning individual autonomy to the first order, not public health, but individual autonomy to the first order." He added. A vaccine expert and previous member of the committee said Dr. Milhon seemed to misunderstand the purpose of the vaccine committee. "A CIP makes recommendations for what is best for the whole population," Dr. Brewer said. "As for individual autonomy, all vaccines are already delivered with patient consent." He noted, "For me, autonomy means being able to have my children go to the grocery store or go to preschool and not be stalked by a vaccine-preventable disease that will kill them. RAWSEP View 02 in a recent Yale poll, 65% of American respondents agree that climate change is real and see climate change playing a role in hurting prices and the cost of living. The editor of RAWSEP takes the view that air pollution, which hastens climate change, is of paramount importance first, because preventable air pollution from indoor residential wood burning harms human health and causes preventable early deaths. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. And relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Hill and The Guardian, December 26, 2025. A Yale University poll from earlier this month says most Americans see climate change as playing a role in hurting prices and the cost of living. Pollsters found that 65% of respondents believe climate change is contributing to rising costs at least a little. This includes 88% of liberal Democrats and 77% of moderate or conservative Republicans. 49% polled said they think policies promoting clean energy will improve economic growth and provide new jobs. I find it stunning that even some people in the climate community say that we should stop talking about the climate because there is a cost of living crisis going on, said the Yale Program on Climate Change Communication Director. It is a fundamental error to treat these issues as mutually exclusive. Climate solutions are also cost of living solutions. Most of the elite discourse is very bad at estimating or understanding levels of public concern, and this is a good example of this. The Yale poll found that majorities of voters also favored re-entering the Paris Climate Agreement, using more renewable energy, and using fewer fossil fuels. President Trump has long cast doubt on the science behind climate change, and his administration has sought to roll back efforts to mitigate global warming. The polling came prior to the directive from the Trump National Science Foundation to break up the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado. The Trump White House Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought called the facility one of the largest sources of climate alarmism in the country. A Rutgers University professor said axing the climate research will weaken the weather forecasting ability of America. The Yale survey was conducted November 6th to 14th, 2025, and included 1,146 respondents with a margin of error of 3 percentage points. RAWSEP View 02. Trump allies and appointees near total victory in wiping out U.S. climate regulation. A small group of conservative activists has worked for 16 years to stop all government efforts to fight climate change. Their efforts seem poised to pay off. RAWSEP View 02. If Trump loses the presidency, the 4 people who are counting on Trump to back them to the finish line on reversing the 2009 Obama endangerment finding will be left with a losing position already rejected even by U.S. businessmen. Trump preemptively pardoned one of the 4 who was facing a Georgia lawsuit. The other 3, and who in America, including those 4, is going to experience victory when our air is polluted and harms human health without recourse. Trump appointees Russell Vought and Jeffrey Clark wrote the EPA section of the Project 2025 Republican plank. The arguments for dismantling the fight against climate change are predicated on the belief that climate change is not real, which is a stance even businessmen in 2026 do not take. Why is the New York Times rehashing this poor argument today? What legitimate court would uphold an unscientific view on climate change? Being alarmed about climate change seems a rational response in 2026, and most countries in the world are regulating air pollution because they believe climate change is real. Shirking our responsibility to also regulate pollution is not popular worldwide. The fact that a snowball held outside in February 2015 did not melt is not evidence for or against the existence of climate change trying to prove their ideas have merit with unscientific tests should only be persuasive to conspiracy theorists who wish only to disrupt adoption of clean energy such as wind and solar that rationally should be adopted because wind and solar energy are now cheaper than fossil fuels in 2026. Do we have to know the names of these people because they are close to attaining their ends? Are these people ready to act in undemocratic ways to reverse the endangerment finding? Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, February 10, 2026. In the summer of 2022, Democrats in Congress were racing to pass the biggest climate law in the history of America, and President Biden was declaring that global warming posed a clear and present danger to the United States. But behind the scenes, 4 Trump administration veterans were plotting to obliterate federal climate efforts once Republicans regained control in Washington. 2 of them, Russell T. Vought and Jeffrey B. Clark, were high-profile allies of Donald Trump. Mr. Vought, who has railed against climate alarmism, and Mr. Clark, who has called climate rules a Lenin-like plot to seize control of the economy, drafted executive orders for the next Republican president to dismantle climate initiatives. The other 2, Mandy Gunasekera and Jonathan Brightbill, were lesser-known conservative attorneys with long histories of fighting climate initiatives. Ms. Gunasekera, a one-time aide to the most vocal global warming denialist in the Senate, and Mr. Brightbill, who had argued in court against Obama-era climate regulations, collected an arsenal of information to chip away at the scientific consensus that the planet is warming. Days before Mr. Trump left office in January 2021, his EPA denied a petition from a group led by Mr. Ebel to reconsider the endangerment finding. Mandy Gunasekera is an attorney with long history of fighting climate initiatives. Ms. Gunasekera is known in Washington for handing a snowball to James M. Inhofe, then a Republican senator from Oklahoma, and her boss on a cold February day. In 2015, Mr. Inhofe held up the snowball in the well of the Senate as evidence that the planet could not be warming dangerously in the summer of 2022 as Mr. Biden and Democratic lawmakers were ramping up their climate efforts. Ms. Gunasekera and Mr. Brightbill sought $2 million for a secretive campaign to kill the endangerment finding. According to a funding pitch obtained by Field Notes, a watchdog group that investigates the oil and gas industry, the campaign would operate in secret to prevent media and other conflicted sources from shaming participants and undercutting the work before it is done. The Supreme Court rejected that argument in a landmark 2007 case called Massachusetts v. EPA, clearing the way for the agency to issue the endangerment finding. 2 years later, former colleagues of Mr. Clark said he was less concerned with reducing the costs to companies of complying with environmental laws than with fighting what he saw as government overreach in the form of climate policies. Mr. Clark has called climate initiatives part of a plot to control Americans and to undermine the U.S. economy. He has called environmentalists a crazy climate cult and compared them to the authoritarian pig characters in the dystopian novel Animal Farm by George Orwell. Mr. Clark is an ideologue with very strong views that EPA should not regulate greenhouse gases. At the time that he was hired by Mr. Vought, Mr. Clark was facing a criminal investigation in connection with the Trump effort to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. President Trump preemptively pardoned Mr. Clark in November, and the Georgia case was dismissed. Mr. Vought is once again the White House budget director and the boss of Mr. Clark in their new roles. Both men have focused on ridding the government of green initiatives, and Mr. Clark has pushed EPA lawyers to strengthen their legal arguments for repealing the endangerment. Finding a spokeswoman for the White House Office of Management and Budget said in a statement that Trump administration officials were working in lockstep to execute on the Trump deregulation agenda. A Republican who led the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission in the first Trump administration said conservative activists had helped sustain the fight against the endangerment, finding even after businesses backed out. It is not the corporate interests, it is the pure ideological activists who believe that climate change is a hoax, who believe that this was about transferring wealth and driving socialism and destroying renewable energy and promoting left-wing ideology. This is their moment, he said. A former Trump transition advisor who runs a website that promotes theories saying that climate change is not real said the years of work of conservative activists might have gone nowhere if a different Republican had won the presidency. Instead, the activists found a receptive audience in Mr. Trump, who has called climate change a hoax and a con job. The next challenge is to ensure the repeal of the endangerment finding holds up. In court, he said, "We have kept the skepticism alive," he said, adding, "I hope we do not blow it. I do not know when or if this opportunity will come around again." One World Research 110A World PM 2.5 Rain Enhancement Technologies expands research into air quality and smog mitigation, investing news network. Air pollution affects billions worldwide, with fine particulate matter PM 2.5 posing severe health risks. PM 2.5 refers to particles 2.5. 2A United States average PM 2.5 pollution from wood burning is 22% from research published in the European Medical Journal. Residential wood burning smoke PM 2.5. PM 2.5 pollution driven by residential wood burning. EMJ PM 2.5 pollution made up of fine airborne particles small enough to penetrate deep into the lungs and bloodstream is a risk well established. Using a high-resolution air quality model, researchers estimated that residential wood burning contributes nearly 22% of the population-weighted average PM 2.5 pollution during winter months. Across the contiguous USA 2 days ago, 2B United States wildfire burning wood smoke 2B 1 PM 2.5 wildfire smoke PM 2.5 and mortality rate in the contiguous United States. A causal modeling study science the relationships between chronic exposure to wildfire smoke PM 2.5 particulate matter with aerodynamic diameter of less than or equal to 2.5 micrometers and mortality remain 2B 2.5 exposure to wildfire smoke. Fine particulate matter linked to increased stroke risk. The Cardiology advisor PM 2.5 hazard ratio 1.013 per unit. Exposure associations for wildfire smoke PM 2.5 were generally stronger than for non-smoke PM 2.5. For people 2B 3 PM 2.5 wildfires inflate PM 2.5 inequity gains in California. Mirage News PM 2.5 exposure disparity in California 2006 to 2018. Author countries France, United States. Funding this work was supported by the National 2C United States, sorted by publisher 2C1. United States heat pump carrier introduces next generation chiller, and heat pump carrier is proud to introduce the latest additions to its line of water-cooled screw chillers and water-sourced heat pumps engineered for 2C2. United States heat pump facilities management. News Greenheck air source heat pumps HVAC coverage facilities net. The air source heat pump ESHB options have been expanded across RT packaged rooftop units and RV dedicated outdoor air systems to support 2C3. United States heat pump. The heat pumps by Gradient get new smarts to enable old building retrofits. TechCrunch. The heat pumps by Gradient fit in Windows, minimizing installation times. Now it is introducing software to make those units more intelligent. 2C4 United States heat pump. TCL introduces tiered all inverter duct heat pump platform for the U.S. market. PR Newswire. TCL, one of the best-selling consumer electronics brands in the world today, introduces its all-inverter unitary duct heat pump. 2C5 United States heat pump. Gradient links window heat pumps to /retrofit costs. The tech buzz. Gradient launches Nexus software to network window heat pumps across entire buildings, enabling centralized control and energy management. 3A California Mountain View heat pump rebate. Mountain View doubles money to offer $2,000 water heater rebates. Mountain View Voice. Mountain View is providing $2,000 rebates for residents who replace their gas water heaters with more environmentally friendly electric heat pumps. 3B California San Francisco Bay Area. Spare the air, sorted by publisher 3B 1 California San Francisco wood smoke. Spare the air alert issued for Bay Area. No wood burning allowed. CBS San Francisco atmospheric conditions in the Bay Area prompted air quality regulators to issue a spare the air alert for Thursday, which bans burning wood. Or 3B2 California San Francisco Bay Area wood burning. Spare the air alert issued for Bay Area. No wood burning allowed. CBS News atmospheric conditions in the Bay Area prompted air quality regulators to issue a spare the air alert for Thursday, which bans burning wood. Or 3B3 California San Francisco Bay Area wood burning. Spare the air alert issued for Bay Area. No wood burning allowed. KION atmospheric conditions in the Bay Area prompted air quality regulators to issue a spare the air alert for Thursday, which bans burning wood. Or solid 3B4 California San Francisco Bay Area wood smoke. Spare the air alert wood burning ban issued for Bay Area. Thursday. Cron 4 BCN the Bay Area Air District has issued a spare the air alert for Thursday, banning wood burning in the region because of a forecast for high 3B5. California Mountain View wood smoke. Spare the air alert issued for Thursday, wood burning ban. Mountain View Voice. The Bay Area Air District has issued a spare the air alert for February 5th, banning wood burning in the region because of a forecast for high levels of 3B6. California San Francisco Bay Area wood burning Bay Area bans wood burning amid spare the air alert national today. The prohibition covers fireplaces, wood stoves, outdoor fire pits, and most other solid fuel burning, with only narrow exemptions for homes. Without 3B7 California, San Francisco Bay Area, wood smoke regional spare the air day, wood burning ban issued for Bay Area. Thursday SFGate, the Bay Area Air District, has issued a spare the air alert for Thursday, banning wood burning in the region because of a forecast for high levels. For Colorado, Carbondale heat pump rebate. Carbondale staff shares 2026 climate work plan plans, JG inventory, and efficiency pilot citizen portal AI rebates, including MiniSplit heat pumps rather than a single large heat pump rebate program. The work plan also describes piloting a voluntary 5 Delaware heat pump global heat pump market to reach $167.4 billion by 2036 as electrified Yahoo Finance policy-driven electrification efficiency mandates and smart HVAC integration redefine global heating infrastructure. Newark, Delaware. Access Newswire. 6 Florida Ocala ordinance and wood burning. Ocala City Council denies amendment to ordinance to allow for above-ground incinerator. 352 today. Wood and vegetative debris is deposited and burned. The machine uses an air curtain to burn the material at a very high temperature, which reduces 7 Massachusetts Boston heat pump. High electricity prices are getting in the way of heat pump installations. Fast Company. Harvard researchers found that the cost of electricity is key to encouraging people to install heat pumps. Widespread adoption will require lower 8 New York heat pump. Finally, an energy-saving mini-split. You will not want to hide the New York Times. Over the past decade or so, ductless mini-split heat pumps, electric heating and cooling units usually mounted to an interior wall, have emerged as 9 Oregon wood smoke air quality alert for Deschutes County Friday. OregonLive.com. Oregon Live. Avoid using wood burning stoves and other sources of indoor smoke if possible. Adds the Weather Service. A subscription is required to read this. 10 Vermont heat pump rebate. Can heat pumps keep Vermont homes warm all winter? The North Star monthly. In addition to rebates for home heating systems and heat pump water heaters in 2026, they are offering weatherization rebates of up to 90% cash back. 10B Vermont. Wood burning. Putting another log on the fire is getting harder and more costly for some this winter. Vermont. Public Vermonters who rely on wood stoves may have a harder time heating their homes as affordable dry wood is in short supply as the temperature drops it. 11 Virginia heat pump. Keeping warm without raising your bills. According to experts, Virginia Tech News, turn the temperature down if your home is heated and cooled by a heat pump. Consider setting your thermostat cooler in the winter to 68 degrees. 12 Canada, Ireland, and the United Kingdom. Wood smoke. 12A wood burners may treble the exposure of children to pollution in home. Study finds The Guardian. Wood burning and indoor smoking. Short peaks and particle pollution were linked to home cooking and secondhand tobacco smoke. Home heating with the children living in homes with wood burners could be exposed to over 3 times more pollution than those in homes which do not burn. With the results 12B wood smoke. Wood burners may treble the exposure of children to pollution in homes. Study finds the independent factors like smoking and even cooking contribute to pollution exposure. Researchers found children living in homes with wood burners could be exposed to triple the amount of pollution than those without. A new study has found the research 12C wood burning. Wood burners may treble the exposure of children to pollution in home. Study finds Yahoo News. Canada researchers say this pattern could be attributed to wood burning at home. This took place in 21% of homes for the school children in Holyhead. 12D 11130B wood smoke. Wood burning fires may triple the exposure of children to pollution in home. Study finds the Irish independent smoke emissions for new wood burning stoves alongside warning labels. In Ireland, regulations around wood burners were tightened significantly in children living in homes with wood burners could be exposed to triple the amount of pollution than those without. A new study has found 13 Australia heat pump rebate. The 2027 hot water rule in Victoria. Why 2026 is the year to act. Energy Matters. Rebate levels are known. Availability is strong and installers look into your eligibility for VU heat pump rebates. Consider weather. 14 Finland heat pump. Picture this. After an active day in the forests of Lapland, you relax and watch the northern lights. Facebook. The setup even allows for the addition of another heat pump should the resort expand in the future. Learn how geothermal heat pumps work. HTTPS. 15A United Kingdom heat pump. Staying warm with a heat pump. What is actually different after making the switch from a gas boiler? Daily Mail. When you first get a heat pump installed, explains Jeff Shepard, it is hard to come away from that boiler mentality of turning it on. In the 15B United Kingdom. Anglesey. More than traffic. Wood smoke. Wood burners polluting rural homes. More than traffic. Air quality. News. The research involving school children carrying backpack-mounted air sensors found that domestic wood burners and adult smoking are the primary. 15C United Kingdom. Good Morning World. The Epstein files name men around the world. RAWSEP View. Trump is hoping that Labor Prime Minister will be smudged with a Mandelson acquaintanceship, although the Starmer interactions with Mandelson are few compared with the thousands of mentions of the Trump friendship with Epstein in the Epstein files that have to this date only been released. Heavily redacted excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission. Particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times World Newsletter. February 10, 2026. The Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel, stayed at the Manhattan apartment of Jeffrey Epstein multiple times. A close associate of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman exchanged messages with Epstein about opening so many legs in some places. Embarrassment has turned into political scandal. An advisor to the Prime Minister of Slovakia has resigned, so has a former French education minister who led the Arab World Institute in Paris. But the biggest fallout has been in Britain, where the Prime Minister Keir Starmer is now under pressure. A senior Labour politician openly called for Starmer to step down. There seems to be little doubt that the Epstein scandal has damaged the Starmer government. He won decisively in 2024. Now few analysts see him lasting until the 2029 elections. It is a striking outcome. At their origin, the Epstein files are an American scandal. Why have they become a crisis for Starmer, but not for President Trump, who was a close friend of Epstein? Read this for more details about Trump in the Epstein file. Sorry for having believed the lies of this man and appointed him, Starmer said last week. Starmer and Mandelson were not known to be close friends, but critics argue that Starmer should step down for making a serious error of judgment by appointing an associate of a notorious sex offender. They say he did what many close to Epstein have done, chose political expediency over doing the right thing. As of late Monday, it seemed unlikely that Starmer would step down imminently. There is no clear successor in place, and there will be local elections in May in which Labour is expected to perform badly. It would not make much sense for Starmer to step down now and let his successor take the hit. But the Epstein saga seems to be shaping his political fate in a way that Trump has so far avoided. Starmer has billed himself as a centrist, a decent man, the one holding populist forces at bay. There is nothing connecting him directly to Jeffrey Epstein, but Starmer still represents mainstream elites, the very forces Epstein has become linked with and that Trump campaigned against. 16A Ukraine destroys 6,000 Russian drones. RAWSEP View. Ukraine scored a big victory in their defense of their homeland. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, the Ukraine Independent. February 10, 2026, Ukrainian forces destroyed around 6,000 FPV first-person view drones and their components in a major overnight strike on Russian military targets. Overnight on February 9, the General Staff said Ukraine routinely strikes Russian military facilities as well as oil infrastructure that helps Russia finance its war and supply the Russian army with weapons, fuel, and equipment. Ukraine targeted a Russian drone warehouse in the city of Rostov-on-Don, located in Rostov Oblast, destroying 3 containers filled with FPV drones and their components. According to the report, the General Staff added that several additional containers were damaged but did not provide further details. Ukrainian forces also struck a command post of airborne troops from Russia in the city of Sudzakorsk Oblast, as well as a Russian ammunition depot near the village of Novoalekseyevka in the Russian-occupied part of Kherson Oblast. The scale of Russian military losses and the full extent of the damage are still being assessed, the General Staff said. Ukrainian drones recently targeted a Russian facility in Tver Oblast that produces fuel components for Kh-55 and Kh-101 cruise missiles, according to a source in the security service of Ukraine. SBU familiar with the operation. The strike hit the Red Kino experimental plant, which manufactures Desalin M rocket fuel and fuel additives for diesel and aviation kerosene. The attack underscores the Ukraine focus on disrupting the advanced missile production and military logistics of Russia. 17 Cameroon, Ghana, and Kenya. IQ Air 30, a Kenya, Cameroon, and Ghana would smoke indoor cooking smoke and health of women. IQ Air, a survey of women who were the main household cooks in Kenya, Cameroon, and Ghana found higher rates of depression among those using charcoal or wood. PM 2.530b. Why is PM 2.5 chosen for this ranking? Knowledge base. IQ Air PM 2.5 is widely regarded as the pollutant with most health impact of all commonly measured air pollutants due to its small size. PM 2.5 is able to 18 Morocco PM 2.5 particulate matter PM 2.5 and PM 10 prediction using Fourier series decomposition in nature for PM 2.5 prediction. The model during autumn season was observed to be outperforming other models in all other seasons these results were based on. 19 India drone 120A PM 2.5 drone measurements reveal high near surface urban haze. Nature drones carrying low cost sensors detect fine particulate matter peaking above rooftops in Delhi PM 2.5 concentrations leaving vertical profiles. 20 Thailand PM 2.5 PM 2.5 returns to Bangkok as dust levels spike. Lak Krabang and Bang Rak. Worst hit nation Thailand. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration Air Quality Information Center reported the latest PM 2.5 fine particulate matter under 2.5 microns. Webisode 57DHYAFZZEE in January 11, 2026 Congress is racing to undo thousands of cuts to federal science programs. Cartoon 1 of 5 Congress is racing to undo thousands of cuts to federal science programs. Cell 1 The current government bid for an overall cut in scientific funding to $154 billion from $198 billion would be a plunge of 22%. Cell 2 This week, the Senate Appropriations Committee released a bipartisan package of bills. Cell 3 that largely scraps the current government-planned cuts to federal science programs. Cell 4 Congress will set aside roughly $188 billion for federal research. Cartoon 2 of 5 Congress is racing to undo thousands of cuts to federal science programs. Cell 1 $188 billion for federal research will only be a drop of 4%. Cell 2 This rejects the current government push to let our competitors do laps around us. Cell 3 Last year, the current government administration called for a cut in federal basic research of more than 1/3. Cell for the current government sought even larger cuts for the National Science Foundation, which sponsors much of the nation's basic research. Cartoon 3 of 5 Congress is racing to undo thousands of cuts to federal science programs. Cell 1 The current government proposed that the National Science Foundation NSF budget be slashed to $3.9 billion. Cell 2 from $8.8 billion, a drop of 56%. Cell 3 The Senate package countered with a reduction to $8.75 billion. Cell 4 or less than 1%. Cartoon 4 of 5 Congress is racing to undo thousands of cuts to federal science programs. Cell 1 The Senate package includes $24.4 billion for NASA, a 1.6% cut. Cell 2 $8.8 billion for the Environmental Protection Agency EPA, a 4% cut. Cell 3 $8.4 billion for the Department of Energy Office of Science, a 1.9% increase. Cell 4 $6.2 billion for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, roughly flat. Cartoon 5 of 5 Congress is racing to undo thousands of cuts to federal science programs. Cell 1 The Senate and the House are now not far apart for negotiations on a final budget. Cell 2 The House's moves on 2026 science budgeting add up to $185 billion, which is close to the Senate figure of $188 billion. Cell 3 But this cannot undo the damage that the current government administration frenzy of budget cutting and administrative chaos. Cell 4 brought to the nation's scientific establishment.
Webisode 57DHYAFZZEE January 11, 2025 If science funds are restored, then fund alternatives to wood burning. Cartoon 1 of 5 If science funds are restored, then fund alternatives to wood burning. Cell 1 Fund heat pumps that work down to 40 degrees below zero and also act as air conditioners. Cell 2 Fund extending a smart electric grid everywhere, including all rural areas. Cell 3 Fund wind and solar energy sources that produce electricity sent to the smart grid. Cell 4 Fund batteries that store the electricity produced by wind and solar long-term for use in emergencies. Cartoon 2 of 5 If science funds are restored, then cut dirty energy that is now funded. Cell 1 Cut funds for biofuels such as wood stoves and wood burning for home heating. Cell 2 Cut funds for biofuels such as corn-based ethanol for automobile fuel. Cell 3 Cut funds for wood and other biofuels used to replace coal burning in industrial plants. Cell 4 Cut funds for fossil fuels as well as cut funds for biofuels. Cartoon 3 of 5 If science funds are restored, enact regulations that fund removal of indoor residential wood burning appliances. Cell 1 fund resident-owned Purple Air PM 2.5 monitors. Cell 2 given free to any near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner. Cell 3 whose wood burning PM 2.5 emissions enter the yard of the near neighbor and sicken them. Cell 4 use the data downloadable from the Purple Air map as evidence to shut down each indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary. Cartoon 4 of 5 If science funds are restored, enact regulations that make electric vehicles and public transport affordable. Cell 1 reinstate rebates for electric vehicles. Cell 2 fund high-speed electric transport that will be low cost to all. Cell 3 enact fuel regulations to discourage production of gas-powered vehicles. Cell 4 fund research that makes production of electric vehicles efficient and cost-effective. Cartoon 5 of 5 If science funds are restored, enact regulations that make home heating and transport by electric vehicle affordable. Cell 1 do not allow subsidies for luxury electric vehicles. Cell 2 do not allow subsidies for home heating for individuals making over a certain salary. Cell 3 tax the rich to provide clean energy subsidies for the middle income and poor. Cell 4 keep in mind that the Energy Department and the EPA should work to stop air pollution that harms human health as well as slow climate change.
Webisode 57DHYAFZZEE January 4, 2026 Would smoke affect the family adversely? Cartoon 1 of 2 Cell 1 When you know you are not protecting your family well enough. When you replace air filters and air purifiers every month instead of every 6 months. Just do not burn wood indoors residentially to begin with. Cell 2 When you are scared whenever someone opens a window. Just do not burn wood indoors residentially to begin with. Cartoon 2 of 2 Cell 1 It gives me no great joy to say this. Smog towers do not work. Cell 2 Carbon capture does not work. Just do not burn wood industrially in place of coal to begin with.
Red Green Fox here. The quick red green fox jumped over the barriers to clean air. Red Green Fox here, ready to sing to you the names of the 2025 major wood-burning biomass industry subsidy opponents. 1. Biofuel Watch. 2. Bulkley Valley Stewardship Coalition of British Columbia, Canada. 3. Comite Schoen Lucht, which means Beautiful Air Committee in German. 4. Dogwood Alliance. 5. Equity Group Foundation, nicknamed EGF. 6. Environmental Paper Network, nicknamed EPN. 7. Natural Resources Defense Council, nicknamed NRDC. 8. Prakaunia Narzexwisistki Isted, which means Workshop for All Beings in Polish. 9. Rachel Carson Council. 10. Solutions for Our Climate, nicknamed SFOC.
Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove. An international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View purple air PM2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.